Hi everyone! I'm Nikki and this is Talking Outlander. This is our final episode for 6 months. Well, actually, I'm sure we'll be back between now and then. But welcome back. I am back from my hospitalization of seeing Jamie's rear end. It was a quick hospitalization, but I'm out now, so thank you for your well wishes. We are back tonight with new and old friends alike, so go around and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'll start. I'm Beth. You guys know who I am. I've been here every week. And I'm not drinking anything alcoholic this week, so it's going to be a good time.
Hey, I'm Elise from That's Normal. I am the newbie Outlander virgin who has not read the books. So that is my perspective and my thing. And I am very hungover, so I'm also not drinking anything.
I guess I'll go next. Hi, I'm Laura. I'm from Hypable.com, and I've been here too many times, so you all know who I am. And I'm drinking coffee from my little Sassenach mug because after this I have to go and use power tools, and alcohol and power tools is probably not a smart idea. So, coffee today.
Hi, I'm Tiffany. I occasionally write for That's Normal. And I was supposed to be on last week, but then we had a whole bunch of bugs on my computer, so I'm here this week.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. I'm Nikki. Do we want to go around and say our one-sentence summary for the thing? My one-sentence summary for the show is also my tagline, and it's, "Let me console you, Tobias."
Oh gosh, don't you just want to like grab on his face and smooch his laugh lines?
Pretty much, and just like wipe his tear, single tear.
Mine is I will be writing fan fiction now because it's a part of the world. So get ready.
I think mine is going to be flash forward, flash back, flash forward, flash back.
Yep. I think mine is something like great looks for fall 2014 ruined by rape. Does that make sense?
Oh gosh.
And mine is I had Claire hair before it was cool, because that's pretty much, her hair is pretty much what my hair looks like every morning when I wake up.
Except purple.
Yeah, except purple right now.
Well, is that like a real thing? Like, I felt like that very first scene, like half of Jamie's hair was like two colors. Was it just wet, or was it like a bad dye job? What was going on?
You could tell it was 2 different days. I got kind of hysterical looking at that scene because you're like, it's raining, it's not raining, it's raining, it's not raining. So,
Yeah.
you know, props to the people who had to deal with the continuity of the soggy Sam Heughan. But yeah, that was definitely probably a tough weather scene for them to shoot. It's go back and look at it. You'll be able to go rain, no rain, rain, no rain.
Yeah. And too, like at the very end of the episode, Katrina's hair is really long, like much longer than it's been the rest of the episode. I was like, hello pickups. Like that.
It's like the growing braids in The Wizard of Oz with Dorothy with her braids changing length.
Yeah.
In general, her hair looked amazing this episode.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where I don't even care that was not possible in the time. I don't care. It looks real good.
Yeah, there's no moose in the 1740s, but yeah, exactly.
You know what it is, though? It's the sex. Your hair changes having sex with different people. Oh, God. Carry on.
I have all kinds of different hair, but it doesn't mean who I'm having sex with. Or not.
Anyway.
Anywho, I said this in my post, but I really want to talk about it because did anybody else get the Miss Scarlet from Clue vibe in Claire and Blackjack at the very end? Like, even the way she says secrets. Like, she says the word secrets, and it sounds like Leslie Ann Warren saying government secrets. And I was like, what the crap? Exactly like Miss Scarlet from Clue. This whole shebang, this whole little thing they're talking about looked like a scene from Clue. It was killing me. Am I the only one?
No, it'd been so long since I'd seen that movie. I actually went back and I looked at it on YouTube, and I was like, oh my God, you're right.
Yes. Even her color, the color of her dress was green. It was bananas. I couldn't handle it. But that's really all I have to talk about. So we've had a million wonderful comments on Twitter and on the blog with people that are articulate and smart, because I think that they either loved or hated this episode. And that motto is, as long as you love or hate things, be smart about why you love and hate them. So that's fine. But it's pretty divisive, I think. And I don't think we can talk about the episode without kind of getting into the thing that makes it divisive. So the major controversy basically has been how Ron Moore has suddenly become fervently Team Frank. At least it looks that way in this episode. So
here, I thought it was going to be all the rape.
I thought you were going for rape, and then he went Team Frank. I was like, huh, that's weird.
The rape?
Yeah, that was odd.
That is totally just from my perspective, having not read the book. So I understand that everyone else saw that coming. To me, the knife on the nipple, oh my God, and all of the boobs out, shaming, horrible trauma was really heavy-handed. But that's not what we're talking about.
No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Why? And it's a good thing to talk about. Why are book fans not at all worried about the rape and the way that looks, and they're more worried about the fact that there's too much Frank?
I think it's because they know one and not the other. I think, I get it. The book fans, the book is so Claire Jamie centric, but I really, personally for me, I really enjoy the fact that we get to see what's up with Frank and why she might be missing Frank. Because in the book, you don't understand. You're like, why in the hell would you go back to him? You haven't hardly ever talked about him. So I really like the whole Frank thing, but I guess there are a lot of people that just, they find Sam more attractive and they want the point of view to stay with Sam. I guess maybe if there was more romantic Claire and Frank to contrast with, that would be easier, but there's not as many romantic Frank Claire scenes as there is broody Frank scenes. Maybe that's it.
I don't know. I feel there were, though, at the beginning, and a lot of those flashbacks I thought felt really romantic. I like that they kept flashing back to Frank and giving this whole side storyline that you don't get to see in the books. We don't really see that he's at the police station, that he really fought for her. They talk about it a little bit in that second book, but I don't know. I liked that there was such an emphasis on him. Maybe I'm alone. Apparently
Can I ask the dumb question? How much time is supposed to have passed at this point with her being gone?
This is actually about, because she leaves on Halloween, and he says it's almost Yuletide. So this is a couple of months to 3 months.
Okay.
In the book, it's a lot less than that. It's about 6 weeks.
Okay. Because I have a hard time, actually, with how close she and Jamie have gotten and, how her feelings have developed for him so fast. I think it's a really hard thing to portray, and I think she's doing a great job. But having her have that heart-wrenching moment where she's going back to the Stones and really deciding what she wants made it hard for me to understand how she feels that and also these strong feelings for Jamie at the same time. I don't know.
I think in the show that they haven't shown those strong feelings for Jamie as much as they do in the book. She's way more into Jamie at this point in the book than she is on the screen. And I really like the whole aspect of, even this week, it's my favorite episode of the entire season so far. And I hated last week's. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't a fan. But I really like how they put Frank in there. So I did not like Frank at all when I read the books and everything. But now I really have I can see that side. I think it was a really smart choice for people, and for people to be able to understand Jamie's relationship and how she feels so tied to Jamie, and how and at the start of the show, how she wants to get back to Frank. But like I mentioned before, I had a book club, just a real life book club, and they all hated the book because that was the number one reason, is that they didn't like how she forgot about Frank so fast, and she was so into Jamie. But I feel like the show is really spreading it out and giving us a really good view of both sides.
Yeah, actually, some of the folks on Twitter are saying the same thing, just to give shout out to two different people. Knit Devil on Twitter is saying, with Ron's Frank, how did this episode forward his arc? And then she put question mark, not at all. So maybe they're not getting enough development with Frank, just maybe emotion. And then the other side of that is somebody saying, Shemana Patrick is saying, like that they are showing more of Frank, but non-book readers don't get enough Jamie development. So that kind of goes right back to what you're saying, Tiff. So I guess it's like both sides of it.
I think that the difference is that right now we're seeing there is, because there's book readers and there's show readers. I mean, Elise just said it. Like, for her, Claire's too attached to Jamie. But for book readers, like, she's not attached enough. And I understand that. I mean, in this scene where she's running off to the stones, in the book, and I hate even saying in the book when we do these because we should be focusing on the show, but in the book she is drowning, and the only thing that makes her try to come to the surface of the water is thinking about Jamie. She gets jealous thinking about the fact that Jamie could go on and be with somebody like Leary, and it makes her fight a little harder to stay alive. Thinking about Frank in 1945 doesn't make her care. And so having her running off to hearing Frank's voice and screaming for him is a total departure from where she is emotionally in the books at that moment. But at the same time, Jamie looks like a horny puppy instead of this like eager, smart, like fully capable, competent, witty man that he is in the books at this point. So like I don't really care that I don't understand why she's attached to Jamie either, because at this point show Jamie is nothing more than like a horn dog. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's just like he's like an eager puppy.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like newbie virgin sex though too. I mean, I get part of that. I mean, that's definitely a hey, how much fun this is kind of thing. But I get your point. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam might be playing him a bit young and like indulging those kind of dumb questions a little bit. I think if he maybe just phrased them a little differently, it wouldn't seem so cheeseball. But.
Well, the does it ever stop the wanting you? In the show, that's a horny statement. He is hard up at that moment. In the book, it's tender. In the book, it's like it's this tender moment that he has afterwards, and that makes it totally different. It makes it shows his character in a completely different light. So we've had a lot of people complaining, like, where is the Jamie that we know? Because the books, to be honest, most people, people are gonna crucify me. People read the books for Jamie. I'm telling you right now, when it gets into later books and it's all these other characters and Claire's doing stuff that if it's not a Jamie scene, you are skimming it. You do not care. People read these books because Jamie Fraser is the most phenomenal character ever. And I have to agree. I loved the episode. I did. There's a million things I want to talk about that I loved. But where is Jamie? The Jamie that we know in the books is already there, like, so far. And he's not there, really. I mean, he was in the beginning of the season, but I don't think he is now.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. At the beginning of the season, I saw Jamie Fraser. I saw him clearly. And these last two episodes, they just annoyed me because, well, his character has annoyed me, which is like, devastating to say because he's like one of my favorite book characters ever. So I think that you're right, Nikki, though, that he is playing it really young and a little cheesy. And I think that that's what's kind of getting on my nerves because he's such – and I think at the very end of this episode, too, though, he did kind of come back when he was telling her to stay put, you know. And so that scene, I was like, okay, that's Jamie. But everything in the last 2 weeks before that, I was like, oof.
How secondhand embarrassing was the sex scene in this one? Like when he's like, then you'll get what you deserve. I was so secondhand embarrassed. I wanted to crawl under the bed. It was awful.
Well,
Yeah, that one,
cute, though.
that one was definitely cheesy. I mean, that is definitely a scene in the books from they are out in the grass doing it, but that line is not there. Yeah, I hear you.
The only thing that saved that scene is how much she was laughing, because
Yes.
it made me laugh like that. I was like, oh my gosh, you're being ridiculous. And she was like laughing hysterically because he was being ridiculous. So
I felt like that was Katrina laughing at Sam.
totally.
I'm sure it was. I think they have, going back to what you were talking about, I think they have the hard job of trying to portray a love triangle and one that's believable enough that like she could honestly love both of these people in a different time, and that's where the tension is. I think they have a hard time because in the book it's not as strong of a triangle, but they want to make it believable for people who haven't read that, and it should be more believable. That was Diana's book, blah 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 blah. But I mean, look at so many books that are famous and movies and that have a love triangle. People, obviously there's a team who X and a team Y for a reason, because people are torn. So I think they're trying to make that make it more obvious that you should be torn.
Yeah, I think you're right. And one of our readers, Jenny Bassett, she was like, please talk about the fact that they're making this into a love triangle, and that's not how the books read at all. And you just did that. I mean, it's 100%. It isn't what the books are, but maybe when you're adapting it for a new medium, it needs to be.
Well, I think that's probably what Diana originally wanted, but maybe didn't know how to do that, or maybe just was so enamored with the Jamie character that she went for Jamie.
Yeah. Maybe.
I think we'll get some more of it back too after the break. I mean, I think they ended the episode on the perfect iconic thing where they really had to end it right where they did. And let's face it, everybody loves a good damsel in distress rescue. I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say clearly Jamie is going to rescue Claire. Otherwise, boom, show over, no more Outlander. You know, duh, obviously.
Yeah.
He is going to rescue her. And I wonder if maybe some more of the attachment and the feelings are going to come with the fact that Jamie is rescuing her from someone who clearly looks so much like her husband. Like, I feel like that's going to bring a lot of emotion to it also.
And going back to what Elise was talking about before, why aren't we more upset about the whole rape scenes and stuff? It's because we, as book readers, we know that Jamie's going to rescue her. You know, every time she gets into a sticky situation, Jamie's going to come to her rescue.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And vice versa.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Speaking of rape, that I don't think was very clear, in the book where she gets attacked, like you saw her and she knifes the guy, it was like a near rape in the book. The guy didn't get very far. I don't think they made it clear in the showing last night, like how far did he get? I mean, I know book readers realize he didn't get very far before she got him. I don't think that was clear in last night at all. So I feel like people might think she got raped once and then she's fine about it. Not that she's really fine, but I don't think that was clear.
I mean, I feel differently about that, and Elise, I think you might back me up on this, because it isn't clear in the show, but at the same time, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he penetrated her or not. I mean, she still was attacked and laid on, and this guy is breathing. I mean, she still was sexually assaulted. I mean, she still was sexually assaulted regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she's going into shock and running. Go ahead, Elise.
No, I was just going to say, for me, I think what was so shocking about both of those scenes wasn't just the fact that there was sexual assault. Like, I know that is a part of this show, and there's the whole argument that it was a part of the time, so it's just that. I think for me what was so shocking is that the amount of nudity and the graphic level of both of those scenes are pretty comparable to romantic sex scenes. So when she's with Blackjack, did I need to see her her full ass and her legs spreading? No. I think I would have gotten the message without seeing that. And so I think that is what, and maybe it's a good thing to instill that kind of reaction, but I think that is what was so disturbing to me, is that you see almost as much of it as you do in this romantic sex scenes.
Yeah.
That's a good
I
point.
think they kind of had to make it that way because it's a horrific act, obviously. I think they showed a lot of it to show that this is so, I can't even think of the word, like so freaking scary for her to be attacked by someone who looks so much like her own husband, and that line is so close from the romantic stuff to this other.
Yeah.
Well, plus we also saw how brutal Blackjack was in regards to Jamie. And I think there's a certain amount of terror of just what, I mean, clearly rape is what's on his mind, but not to get into it, but he could do a whole lot of like scary stuff. I mean, I think part of that being so exposed is to show that you are that exposed and what is he going to do next? You don't know specifically what he's going to do. He's got her down on the table with a knife and hold her skirt up. That, I think that's part of the terror, and it's the first time you see Claire really losing control and screaming in terror, "Help me! Help me! Help me!" I think that's part of it, is you don't know where he's going.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is Claire actually has some agency in that scene from what we know before. I hate saying in the book, but in the book, I mean, in the book, she's got some agency in that scene because he can't perform for her unless she struggles. And so you're missing that in the show, and it does become just a damsel in distress scene with Jamie coming in and saving her, and there's a whole lot more going on in that assault, which is that, you know, that we're missing out on. And she loses all of her agency in that scene, and it's frustrating as a book reader and somebody who wants to see that kind of. I don't know how they would do that. How do they show the floppy penis of the sadist who can't get it up unless she struggles? I don't know, but it would be nice to know that, to see that look on her face, like, oh, it's like that, is it?
Yeah.
You know, this isn't gonna happen.
Yeah, even with that change, though, like I mean, to me, it's like at a certain point, male or female, if you are outnumbered or outmaneuvered or tied down, you know, you could scream and struggle. I mean, it's from no fault of your own almost. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to say, I mean, I think it's sort of a dangerous message the other way, that if you're being attacked, if you don't come up with something, you know, I mean, I think she was thinking as fast on her feet as she could in that situation. There wasn't a good, you know, for all she knew, she was, you know, Jamie wasn't at that window. There was nobody else there. She was going to, I mean, I think she would have put up a hell of a fight, but you know, that's as far as she was going to get with it.
Yeah. I will say, I thought this was one of the most engaging episodes of the season. The stakes felt really high, and there was just a lot going on, and I personally loved getting to know Frank a little bit more and seeing that. But I do kind of hope that in future episodes, there are other conflicts other than Claire being sexually assaulted, and like from time to time, and other things that are going on, other ways of showing conflict. I hope that that's the case. I assume that's the case, but
yeah.
Oh no.
Of course there are. Of course there's more conflict. It's just it seems to be very intensely physical, a lot of the conflict. Not necessarily sexual, but physical for sure.
I do have to say, one of the Frank flashbacks that I thought was really interesting was when he was beating that guy, which I didn't totally understand why that was happening, but
it sounded like you said eating that guy, and I was like, we're not watching Hannibal, Elise. The wrong
I
show.
must have clicked on like a totally different episode. Yeah, spoiler alert. But he was beating this guy, and I mean, you obviously got that like uncomfortable flash of Blackjack there, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Can we go to back to the scene where she is trying to convince him that she knows the Duke of Sandringham? Like, she fell for the oldest trick in the book. Like, of course he's going to ask to check. I was like, duh, she doesn't exist. Immediately, that's the answer. You know it, and she fell for it. I was like, you are a dummy. Like, you are so smart, you fell for that. And doesn't she know that he kind of is fancy, the Duke?
Well, she should, because there should have been more Jamie and Claire talks, and he should have told the Duke of Sandringham story before this happened. But he did it.
Right, or just like the safe move was, I agree totally, Nikki, with what you're saying. She obviously the Duke of Sandringham thing unnerved him, hit a chord, and it would have been so easy for her just, not to stretch it, just to say, well, my dealings are exclusively with the Duke, and just leave it at that. I was like, why are you embellishing? Don't embellish. You cannot keep up this lie.
Yeah. You stick to, like she said, like stick to the small things that you know are true and then hightail your ass out of there. And even like her tying his cravat and being like, no, the safest choice for you is to just let me go on my way. She should have been maybe a little bit more conciliatory and put them on an even playing field and said, let's just let me go. Like, I've got stuff going on. You've got stuff going on. I can't tell you what it is, but trust me, you need to let me go. Like, let's work together here. And then there's a little bit more, not quite so combative with somebody she knows is enjoying, like, screwing people over and being horrible. But whatever, Claire. She's bad at that. That's the whole point. She's bad at that. She's a bad liar.
And actually, that's kind of funny because that's one of the things that we haven't, when we're talking about things that are missing, and we've got a couple comments on Twitter on this, is that they haven't done the whole thing about expressing how bad of a liar she is. Like, we've missed those scenes. So we haven't had as much of that coming up. And the other thing people are saying that they're missing, several people, that after the first time that they're attacked, they basically have sex together to kind of, I don't want to say it's romantic sex. I don't know how else to describe this. I'm trying not to be offensive. But there's somebody said there was no reconnection sex between Claire and Jamie after that episode. So I think there's a lot of little tidbits like that we're missing.
Yeah, let's quit being like dopes and talk about the fact that we missed the waterweed scene, because that scene, I was so happy. We got the great Highlanders grabbing their dirks and their swords and everything real surreptitiously. Jamie's giving her the little PDA, giving her a dirk and getting her to hide in the log. And then Ned Gowan shoots the guy. They have the big thing. And then Jamie and Claire are supposed to have waterweed sex. And it did not happen. It just was a big hug. Like he just hugged her. What?
What? Yeah.
What?
Right.
I agree.
He's supposed to talk about how fighting gives you a terrible cock stand and then waterweed. And she's supposed to be like, oh no, there's 20 people around. And it didn't happen. And it's the best sex scene. It's my favorite because it's so ridiculous. And I'm very upset that it was gone.
Yeah, it's definitely the most memorable one, and I think in the first book. And I was kind of shocked that they didn't put it in there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and just on the whole water sort of theme too, but maybe they'll get to it, you have, I don't know, Rupert or Angus, whichever one he is, I don't know, they're interchangeable, but talking about, like, he's telling the Loch Ness story, like, as they're sitting there, he's talking about Loch Ness. I was like, why didn't they just even, because haven't they not been to Loch Ness at this point in the books? It's a brief little chapter. I was kind of surprised he's there talking about Loch Ness. You saw Loch Ness at the beginning of the over credits on the map, and they don't go to Loch Ness. And that's sort of critical later on.
Waterweed thing that you guys kept talking about?
What?
Is this that whole, like, slippery as a waterweed thing?
Yeah. I mean, Laura's talking about something else. At some point, Jamie touches her, and he's like, "Oh Lord, it's slippery as a waterweed." It's very memorable because it's ridiculous.
Yep, it is. Sorry, the waterweed put me in mind of Loch Ness. I know, like where the waterweeds are. So stupid.
That's perfect. It was perfect. It would have put waterweeds in Jamie's head, and then he would have touched her and been like, "Oh, it's slippery as a waterweed." But the reason they don't go to Loch Ness, I remember Ron saying back at New York Comic Con or before that was one of the chapters they weren't going to do. They didn't want Claire seeing the Loch Ness Monster. It was kind of ridiculous. And Diana has said that was a chapter she anticipated her editors cutting out of the book, and they just didn't. So it's one of those, like, kind of stupid things. And they gave homage to it because he's giving the story, and they showed Loch Ness, like you said. So they paid homage to that chapter without going into Claire actually seeing Loch Ness there, because that goes a little bit beyond the time-traveling fantasy world and making it, like, actual fantasy.
You think if we got the waterweed line, we'd be talking about how ridiculous it was right now, though? And how the delivery was ridiculous?
Probably. I mean, we already talked about how ridiculous his lines were earlier, so...
But last week was great. last week when he said "not one so close and not one that's mine," it was perfect delivery.
That's true.
Yeah, it's all in how you do it in the context. Like, you can have fun, giggly sex, but I think we wanted, in the middle of that fun, giggly, I'm going to have the cheese ball lying in the grass, we also then wanted, like, something touching and tender to go with it, and we just didn't really get that other side of it.
Yeah. And the next time they have sex is going to be very intense and horrible, and I don't think they've earned that yet.
What?
Poor Elise doesn't know what's coming.
I don't want to spoil it for you, but
Well,
after he rescues her, there's some intensity between the two of them, of course. So the next time they are together, if they go by the way the timeline of the books go, which they are, because I know what's coming in the next episode, then it's going to be...
Do you really think they're going to go there? Like, I thought it was over the line in the books. Like,
Oh, they're doing it. Yeah, they're doing it, and it's in episode 9.
okay.
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, to me, it's period. It's like what was happening, so I'm okay with it because it's what.
I don't know.
I'm okay with it, but I don't think that on the show they've earned it. I don't think we've had enough of their connection yet for them to go that far with their physical relationships so soon.
It's true. This kind of feeds into one of the questions we got on the Q&A, or really more of a comment by Renee. She says, after the assault, I feel like it was a turning point for Jamie. It's almost as if he realized that his promise to protect her was more than just lip service. And he knows at that point he can't just be a horny puppy. Which makes sense, especially for what's coming up. I think he finally realizes that he has to protect her, and in that day and age is not easy. So he needs her to understand that too.
That's true.
Somebody at my library was one of the girls who works for me. She's like a huge Outlander fan, and she mentioned the fact that everything that's going on with maybe I shouldn't talk about this. Everything that's going on with the NFL right now, and how it's probably a good thing that they're having such a long break before we see what's coming up next, you know? She's like, how they're going to handle that and how they're going to handle, you know, that whole idea. And good thing it didn't happen before the break. So.
You're killing me. You're killing me.
We'll tell you later, Elise.
I'll tell you when we're off the air so we don't just spoil
There we
it.
go.
Okay.
Just a quickie on Twitter, because if anybody like me is having trouble telling apart Angus and Rupert, one of the Twitter folks has a perfect way. I'm going to remember it now. Dougal's Beard on Twitter has told me, Rupert is a big goofball, and Angus looks like Charles Manson. That's how you tell them apart.
Yes.
True.
He's right. Now I'm never going to get him confused ever again. Mary and Pippin will now stand out in my brain. Now I'll know who they are.
Yeah, he definitely looks like Charles Manson.
He has the man bun, like half up. So.
Yeah. God, I love a man bun, too.
I don't love a man bun, but it worked for him. I'm like, oh, he just, like, that was his normal hair, and he just went to set.
I like a man bun.
So do I, Beth. So do I.
Thank you. So let's talk really quickly about something else that made me happy, made everybody happy. It was the one moment in the show where everyone's Twitter blew up with 2 words. We Roger. We Roger! And Elise doesn't care or know what the hell is going on.
I know. I got really excited when he came on. I was watching with my boyfriend. I was like, it's Roger Wakefield. He's like, who's that? I was like, never mind. Don't worry. Just remember that you saw him.
Cutest kid ever. Oh my God, with the big cheeks and those eyes. Like, I think I was saying to you guys, I said the only thing was missing was him holding a little bowl of soup and going, please, sir, I want some more.
Oh, he was so adorable. And he's foreshadowing incarnate. He's like foreshadowing come to earth, and he's just there like to make Frank feel like shit that he's never going to have a family, basically. That was his like first purpose. And like his second purpose is just to make book fans happy that he was there. And then I had someone on Twitter go, but his eyes should be green. His eyes!
He's a child.
We're not putting contacts in the 18-month-old. Thank you very much, or however old he is.
I tweeted back. I was like, "Yeah, and how's that actor going to grow up in time for season 2?" That's not happening either. But I loved him. He was so adorable.
Well, hashtag
Really
not getting it.
Hashtag what?
Not getting it. Just
No, you don't get it. If you're really into the... And I said, no one ever talks about what color Black Jack's eyes are supposed to be and, like, how they're not right. All of Diana's beautiful descriptions just going down the toilet because Tobias doesn't have black eyes like his soul.
Oh my gosh! Can we also talk about that scene with what is the name? I forget her name now. The Reverend's housekeeper. Is that Mrs. Graham? Okay. So that was kind of interesting as she's having the discussion with Frank, where she's basically like laying it all out there for him. I mean, you know, I was just kind of surprised she even opened her mouth. I mean, could you not? I mean, he was definitely humoring her, but I mean, it just makes you wonder, why do you even try to have this conversation with them? Like, it's not like they're going to believe you. I was kind of surprised they went there.
It makes you wonder if she's had like druid downtime or whatever, where she's had to like ever make anybody believe that their stuff was real before, because she got all giddy that he was sitting there listening to her and like all happy, and he's completely distraught. His life is over, and she's like, my grandma, and he's like. Just looking at her like, get to the point, bitch. Like, what is the deal?
Yeah, I mean, so clearly she was one of the people like dancing around the, you know, the stones at the beginning, but the way she was talking about it, like to me, like, all right, fine, it's legend or whatever, but I wanted to know if she had actually, did she meet a traveler who went back? Did she meet somebody who came forward? Like, I felt like she was talking about it, but at the same time, I felt like she had never met anybody who experienced it, and I was surprised that she was like that convinced of it if she hadn't met somebody.
But don't we find out stuff like later on in the book series that maybe she does know a little bit more because of Fiona, who is somebody way far in the future? So I liked the scene. I thought it was a good little touch, and it gave Frank a little bit of hope maybe. And it kind of I don't know. I was really upset that everyone was saying that Claire was just like, she ran off with another man, and because that's not really in. Is that in the book? I can't remember. Anyway, but it kind of gave Frank like a little bit of hope of maybe this was against her will. This wasn't, you know, something that she wanted to leave me. I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was a good little added touch.
I think that there's definitely more going on with what Mrs. Graham knows, or the druids know.
Isn't she's somehow related to what's her name in the village, right? I just forgot her name. The witch.
I think she's supposed to be related to the lady who, Mrs. Graham is supposed to be related to the lady in the castle who's like the cook whose name just escaped me totally. Mrs. Fitz, right? Mrs. Fitz? They're supposed to be related, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I don't know about that. I haven't read far enough to know all of the details, but there is definitely a good theory that comes out that says that there is someone in the 40s who plants those flowers at the foot of the stone for Claire to find in the future. So that the whole thing was orchestrated specifically for Claire to move through the stones.
Oh, I have a question. Going back to the stones, and we should talk about this before we wrap up, the scene where she runs up the hill and Frank's at the other side. Anyway, when she gets to the top of the hill and looks down at the bottom of the stones, what was that thing down there? It looked like a shawl or something.
Remember, she has a plaid shawl on when she goes up. And
Is that what it was?
Stones, she leaves it laying there and gets up.
So it's her ratty, crappy shawl that's been gathering dust and mud for the past 2 months or whatever.
Yeah, and I love that because it's not at the foot of the, obviously, it's not at the foot of the stones where Frank is, which is that's just really cool. I mean, that's just one of those details that's really cool. But we can talk about that scene because I loved it. I know people hated it. I know some people loved it, but I loved the way it's shot. I love how when one of them is walking down, the camera pans, and then you get the other one walking across. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I was emotional, and I thought it was beautifully done.
Yeah, I agree. That was my favorite scene.
I think that's
the only time. Sorry.
Go, Elise.
Oh, I was gonna. This will come out wrong, but it was. It was one of the few times where, like, as someone who's not a book fan, I like really cared about what was happening. Like, I really wanted them to find each other.
Yeah. I think it served the perfect purpose of making you, giving you having emotional feeling, having a reaction to both of them being in the same place but in a different time and place, essentially, and not being able to get to each other when so obviously they want to. Again, it's going back to building that bond between Frank and Claire that we don't get to see enough of. So it was perfectly done, I thought, except for some weird editing at the end where it like just went black for a second. That was weird, but
I didn't like that either.
Oh,
yeah,
well, I thought
it was over and then it was back. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
did
kinda
like
liked
that it wasn't.
I thought that she was gonna go back, not having any idea what happens. I thought it like had me like, oh my god, like she's going back to him, and then when it comes back, you really should.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good example about how TV is such more a visual item, and sometimes what works well in a book doesn't always work on screen, and vice versa. And I did kind of like the dramatic moment of her rushing to the stones and kind of hearing the name maybe muted on the wind, and then just script back just in time. Like I thought that made for really good television. In the book it's done differently as to what happens, and I think each of those things kind of worked within its own medium is what I felt like. So
Yeah. I agree that I loved how they hear each other and they're pushing, towards each other, and I even like how Frank's back is turned towards the main stone, and that's what made me almost think like, it did look, at least if I hadn't read the book, I would think she's coming through and he's not even going to see her. You know what I mean? Like, I actually thought they might let her go through and then someone pull her back to where he's not going to see her kind of go through in that moment. I really thought that they might do that. But anyway, what bugged me about it is what Nikki said, the editing. Like, there was just like this black moment and then she's being carried away by the things. I was like, why didn't we see the soldiers grab her and pull her back? Because it almost made it look like it's wrong, like something happened wrong. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, they couldn't figure out how to get them there or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I totally
Obviously,
disagree.
they heard her screaming.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was for people. I think this is the one thing for people like me, in that it was to make you think that she was going through.
Yeah.
I like that.
and Twitter agrees with you, Elise, because I'm looking at a lot of comments on our Twitter stream, and just to give a shout out to one, Ann Warnick says, all my non-book reading friends really wanted Claire to go back through the stones, so they definitely were right on getting the same vibe that you were.
man,
I love that there's that tension between the book readers and the non-book readers who are so wanting different things. I think that's great.
I think it's cool. I mean, it's interesting because I'm really into Game of Thrones too, and I just listened to the most recent book because that's going to be where they go the next season. And it's interesting kind of getting the little changes that they meet. And sometimes, as a book reader, I'm like, oh, that was the best scene ever. I love that. And then you see them change something up, and you're like, ooh, wonder where they're going with this, And it's always kind of fun. You don't really know. I mean, sometimes you don't like it, but I think a lot of times it's like, oh, that's creative. Didn't think of that.
yeah. And I think that for the most part, book readers are only upset about things that really change the heart of what they're used to seeing, and not the little thing. I mean, plenty of them are upset about the little things. Let's just be real. They're idiots, and they're upset about the tiny changes or the costume changes or the eye color changes, and they're idiots. So that's fine. But there are people who are upset, and rightly so, about things that kind of change the core of who the main characters are or what their major motivations are. So
I think
I still loved it.
we also need to remember that we are seeing parts of it. We have not seen the whole. So some of these
Right.
things that, I remember, I think it was on the first or second episode, we were all like, oh, remember when Frank was at the father's house? Wouldn't that have been cool if Roger Wakefield had been there? Guess who showed up? It was just a few episodes later. So
I think that's a really good point. Like, I think especially the whole one line that we kept talking about, we were really upset being cut about, like, let's not lie to each other.
Mhm.
I could see how that line could work really effectively after they reunite.
Yeah.
Again, different medium, different TV. So I think you're totally right, Nikki, that some of this stuff will come up in different places sequentially than the book.
Building off of that, do we want to talk about things that we want to see when the show comes back? Maybe not necessarily specific plot points, but like styles or things about the show that could be cool.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I mean, for
Somebody
me,
go.
What do you want to see?
for
Elise?
me, I am praying for less voiceover, and I think as Claire was approaching the stones, it took me out of it because I really didn't need all of that explanation. If I had seen that beautiful scene, seen her looking at the stones, I'm like, okay, I can get it. Like, she's surprised to see this. She's surprised to be back here. And I'm hoping that they, now that they've established that, can kind of let go of the voiceover a little bit to aid that storytelling and just let it happen because it's visual.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's like Felicity, where the first season it was a ton of voiceover of her, and then you just forget it, and they bring it back in the last season. You're like, oh yeah, she did that a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm hoping it's more like Felicity in general.
Yeah.
Scott Speedman just makes an appearance.
Yeah, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a glimmer of fighting Jamie. You know, we actually saw him, you know, combating with the sword. And I had said that was something I really wanted, and we got a glimmer of that. I would like some more of that, so we get to see, you know, Jamie Fraser, the warrior. I want to see some more of that coming up.
Tiff, you want anything?
I just want to see their connection be a little bit stronger, Jamie and Claire. Because I don't feel like it's there. I think it's sweet, but it's not like as passionate as it is in the book, and that's what I want to see.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of where I am. I want to see Jamie be the man, like the man that he is. He's better. He's a better man than Dougal. He's a better man than Rupert. He's a better man than Angus. He's a better man than Blackjack. He's a good man. He's better than all of these other, you know, Highlanders that are around. He's better, and I want to see why.
True. I just want to see some Lollybrook. Like, let's put him in a place that is his own and let him be Jamie and let her be Claire. And I just want to see Lollybrook. I kept yelling at the screen last night. We're not going to see it. Anyway.
We will.
Yeah, I feel you on that, though. Yeah.
Ugh. Out on the road.
I actually have like an arc of where each episode's going for the next 8 episodes in my brain. I know exactly what's gonna happen, and it's good. It may not even be what happens, and I'm like, oh, that's fine. It'll be all right, you guys.
It stresses me out not knowing like where they're gonna go and what they're gonna cut out, because I feel like there's so much more left in this book that I'm like, how are they gonna fit it in another 8 episodes? Like, it's a little bit, it's kind of stressing me out right now.
It'll be okay.
Okay.
I'll send you my document where I like put it all out.
Your spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Third of the day award for you.
Yeah, and well, I needed it.
You
This
did.
is like Beth's fantasy football.
It has been, and now I'm glad that I have 6 months where I don't have to think about it.
Yep.
Let's be real. This is the stressful time of my life, and I'm glad it's over.
Did you get points for seeing Dragonfly and Amber? Did anyone else laugh when that happened?
Yes.
I was like, oh, nice shout out there.
Yeah, he does. Human Road does give her Dragonfly and Amber, though, doesn't he?
She does, not in that fashion, because I just re-listened to it, but I actually liked Hugh Monroe the way they did him here, which was a little differently than the book. I thought he was very effective that way.
Yeah.
Like here he actually physically hands it to her. In the book, he had kind of left it off to the side, tied up with a note. I really liked him presenting it right to her as a wedding gift.
I liked him as a character in general. He can come back anytime. I liked his face. I mean, I liked watching him.
Sure. All right. Any final thoughts? Any final Twitter Q&A things we need to talk about?
Going on, I don't think that we can get to everybody's good
We can't. There's so many tweets and so many questions in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for participating with us and watching and everything. It's been really fun.
Yeah. Let's do our gift moments real quick, and we will say goodbye for 6 months, you guys. Who wants to go first? Their gift moment. My family's about to bust in the door. Somebody.
This is kind of a hard episode for gifting, frankly, but I would probably say when Claire is running toward the stones, just because I want to watch that environment over and over again. And her hair, just like a Pantene commercial, just like billowing hair.
Mine would just be Wee Roger, just kind of looking up, and it needs some kind of tight little, little caption like of who he's going to be in the future with a little thought bubble over his head. That's what you need.
I'm gonna pick the smooching Dirk handoff.
That's a good one. I'm just gonna go for it straight for like the knife lesson scene, like who occasionally you need that in a conversation. So that's my gift.
I like Claire saying, "See, got it." Like when she turns around after the knife scene, like, "See, I got it." Like I could see that. I was like, hey, do y'all want to say hi to Blurtlander?
Yes.
Yes.
Say hi.
Oh, that's Blurtlander.
No, he doesn't want to say hi. I don't think.
Oh, he's got such a nice frame.
No, look.
Blurtlander, I want to see your
There
frame.
he is. Say hi. Bend down more.
Get
Bend
low.
us. Can't
Get
see your face.
low. There we go.
Come on. Say hi, Beth.
I don't know what he's doing. He's okay.
Amazing.
It's great.
His hair is greasy. I don't need to see that anymore. All right, you guys. That's it. That's it for Talking Outlander for the first half of the season. Yay!
We're done. We're not going anywhere. We're still at That's Normal. Visit us daily. I'm sure
We're
we'll
actually
put
going
out.
to be live.
Yeah, check us out on Hypable too. We're going to have a special on Saturdays called Sassenach Saturdays, and we're going to come up with a whole bunch of fun, snarky things we're going to be doing to recap the season. So check us out.
Yay for Hypable and Sassenach Saturdays. We're having probably weekly Hang Outlander, and Hang Outlander is just going to be fandom news and series news and stuff that's going on. So we're doing that too. So we won't leave you in the lurch without anything fun to talk about.
Don't fret, Sassenach. We're here.
Dinnerfash.
Dinnerfash. That's it. All right. Love you all. Thanks for joining, everyone. We will see you very soon.
Bye.
A real quick 6 months. See you in April. Bye.
Bye. Still